A spring storm has Denver looking cloudier than Cheech and Chong's van on this high holiday. While we get some clarity on who made and missed your ballot for governor. A community says a refinery is launching an aerial assault on their health, while people who choose to inhale deeply ponder whether 420 has gone corporate.
Does it feel like the man is like jumping in on this though?
I mean, who knows? Like, maybe.
Your good news this week comes to us in a whisper.
We have to be quiet, right? Do we have to be quiet?
While people trapped on the A-line train shout for us to rescue them. We're just a TV show, but we'll do what we can. Next. Good evening. It is 4:20 in Denver, and a gray haze hangs over our fair city. It's a spring storm. What do you think I was talking about? Listen, Danielle Grant doesn't have time for that nonsense. She has a storm to track.
All right, I'm just going to be blunt with you. It is going to be a soggy Friday night. Across downtown Denver, we've had those gray skies and kind of waves of rain and snowfall pushing in. A lot of green on the radar, so we're talking rain for parts of the plains and some pretty heavy snow up in the high country, too. Here in Denver, a brief lull, but anticipate a bit more rain later tonight. The ski resorts that are still open, Loveland, A Basin, Winter Park, and Mary Jane, going to be epic tomorrow. Those back bowls especially could have up to a foot of fresh powder. Winter storm warnings in place until noontime with 6 to 12 for the Front Range Mountains, a foot and a half toward the San Juans. Do be careful though on the higher mountain passes as snow-packed roads, ice, gusty winds, they could all potentially slow you down early tomorrow morning. So overnight we're down to 32, little snowfall, switching over I'd say by about midnight. Look for a trace to 2 inches possible here in this city. Overall, Colorado getting a good drink out of the storm. I'm sure your grass is probably loving it, and probably those pesky weeds too. We're looking at rain showers still at 11 o'clock for the eastern plains, rain and snow switching to Denver right there around midnight, and this is what we wake up to early tomorrow morning. So some areas could see up to an inch of water, which would just be great for the chronic drought conditions that a lot of us have seen really much of the state. This system starts to pull away by tomorrow afternoon, still a little light snowfall for the mountains and the eastern plains, with really everything winding down by about 11 o'clock tomorrow night. 40s and 50s for daytime highs. We're looking at this storm starting to push off to the east, making way for high pressure to start making its way here by Sunday. Sunshine, warmer temperatures to wind down the weekend. And I don't know, Kyle, what do you think? Out of the next 7 days, I'd say Monday. Looks pretty dope.
She got 10 out of 10, didn't she? She's my hero. Colorado's most stridently anti-marijuana candidate for governor, Doug Robinson, probably was not loving 420 anyway when he got bad news this morning. He didn't make the ballot, came up short on signatures. The Republicans' campaign tells me he is going to appeal. We know that Republican Victor Mitchell did make it on today, and so did a Democrat, Lieutenant Governor Donna Lind. So, barring Doug Robinson's appeal, the field for governor is set. Community activists in North Denver are defending their neighborhood by land and by air, fighting the attempted expansion of I-70, which we've told you about, and now also new pollution limits at the Suncor Refinery. They say the state's new limit on hydrogen cyanide is designed to protect Suncor, not to protect them. Suffice to say, this is complicated if you're not familiar with the science and the regulatory issues involved. But basically, Suncor is now allowed to emit 12.8 tons of hydrogen cyanide a year. State regulators tell us that number is based on science and on air monitoring, and it's safe for the public in those neighborhoods nearby. The activists and their environmental attorney say the limit just gives Suncor more room to pollute than they do now.
It's a misnomer, really, to call that permit term a limit, because it's not limiting anything. It's just saying Suncor is allowed to keep emitting the same amount or more hydrogen cyanide that it's emitting now.
State health regulators say that it's wrong. Suncor is not exempt from the reporting requirements. The state insisted to us today that the new pollution standard actually increases testing requirements and reporting on emissions from the plant. So we no longer do that segment around here asking if the A-line train is working. But if we did, we would ask today, is the A-line working today? The train to the plane? And the answer would be no. She is down for the count again in the worst way. The train is stuck on the Pena Boulevard overpass, just like that first time when the A-line's incompetence made it all over the news. Now, the train almost always works now, but poor next viewer Greg Hartley, he says this was his very first trip and he is stuck. He assumes he will miss his flight. Greg has been communicating with us for the past hour. He's starting to panic a bit. He asked Next to tell his fiancée he loves her. So Jen, if you're watching, Greg's stuck on the A line. He loves you. Jason Hosola, another friend of Next, is also stuck on that train to nowhere. He tweeted this photo with the all-caps plea, "Come save us, Kyle." Jace, I'm just one man, but I share your frustration. And you know what? So does frustrated A-line lady. Remember her from the old segment?
Come on, you piece of
Remember, Tammy was her name. I remember her. You know who else is frustrated with a broken system that doesn't seem to improve? Colorado's teachers. 3 more school districts are canceling class for students on April 27th because teachers are planning a mass walkout to protest education funding at the state capitol. Cherry Creek schools now, plus Thompson schools in Loveland and St. Vrain schools in Longmont, join that list, which includes Denver and Jeffco, where protests are going to clear classrooms. Teachers will rally at the Capitol asking for more funding for their classrooms and for higher pay. There were student walkouts across America today, although we did not see them in Colorado quite as much as a similar protest months ago. Today, they walked out 19 years to the day after the Columbine High School shooting to protest for school safety. Columbine asked those students across the country to instead join them in community service rather than a walkout. Today, some current Columbine students spent the day volunteering at Dutch Creek Elementary in Littleton. They worked with the kids on their schoolwork and helped out in the school's garden. Ray Shaw did not know the 13 people killed at Columbine. He came to know their stories after he was commissioned to create a mural in their memory. He also poured out his thoughts onto paper in a poem, which we share with you tonight.
The artist's thoughts. Up flew 1, up flew 2, up flew 3, then 4. Lightning from a clear blue sky, then up flew more and more. Like a tornado in the distance, I viewed this from far away. The storm never reached my world with all its tragedy and dismay. Why is a question that comes to mind. I'm on a beach counting grains of sand. This why, a question without answer, is something we will never understand. So my brush I loaded with colors of blue and mixed it with sienna and white. I wanted to see them in a heavenly sky where they were free and in the light. And there their spirits could be lifted on wings of doves to the sky. It was then I got back and looked again, and it was then that I wanted to cry. So many birds, such a flurry of wings, seeing more than I wanted to view. The painting seemed so crowded, and I never added to. The elements there we can't understand. So many puzzling pieces to fight. Soul's healing now is what we need in between teardrops and dreams in the night. And with every stroke of my wandering brush, feeling the hurt of everything it seems, even pain hidden in those 2 boys willing to die to hear others' screams. I turned and walked away from the painting. I was feeling more than I could stand. I cannot paint with this feeling of hate. I can't hold these thoughts in my hand. Years may go by for those left behind, and I'm behind you no matter how long, no matter your feelings of contempt or hate, but we may have to forgive to be strong.
Ray Shaw's commissioned mural never really saw the light of day. It's still hanging in the home of the man who commissioned it. They're hoping to find a museum or some other public space which would like the mural so the public can see it. You can learn more about it in an extended story on 9news.com. April 20th, before it became better known as the smoking holiday that we'll discuss later on, this was a day of solemn remembrance throughout Colorado for those 13 lives lost. Today we asked our Chris Vanderveen to share his perspective as a Coloradan.
Theirs are lives frozen, their portraits untouched, unchanged. This is how we see them now, how we saw them then, and how we will see them years from now. 19 years after their deaths, their faces tell stories cut short. Eternal reminders of lives stuck in 1999. This many years later, all we can do is wonder, what if? What if they were here in their 30s, he in his 60s, living their lives, thinking about their weekends, some with families and children of their own? What did we lose when we lost them? Today on this day, I wonder, and I conclude we will never know. Their faces are all we see now, eternal reminders of what could have been. No, what should have been.
On this 420, let's examine the state of marijuana in this state of marijuana. Cannabis was worth $1.5 billion here last year. Though here's the number that really astounded me. There are nearly 40,000 active marijuana industry occupational licenses. The 40,000 Coloradans in the marijuana business is fewer than our 59,000 cashiers, 50,000 waiters and waitresses, and 49,000 registered nurses. But more Coloradans now work in marijuana than work in arts, design, entertainment, sports, and media combined. More in the world of weed than in community and social service occupations, janitorial services, accountants and auditors, and elementary school teachers. Big business. 420's been taken over by the man. The rally in Civic Center Park has officially gone corporate, and that is by design. But still, our Steve Steger looked pretty out of place in a suit and tie.
Smoke weed every day.
Some things will never change, but you've got to admit,
It feels way different, really different.
this isn't the 420 of years past.
It feels really a lot more structured than what it was last year.
Good.
It has a corporate feel to it. When
So-
you think of the term.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing? This event now feels less like a bunch of stoners fighting for their rights and more like a city festival.
Cannabis is going mainstream, and as that happens, we are really trying to make sure that we're inclusive of all the communities that want to be here and celebrate this.
The new organizer, a dispensary company called Euflora, beefed up security with metal detectors, double fencing, and dozens of more private security guards.
And I feel like we're categorically changing this event. We want it to be secure. We want it to be a lot more organized, professionally run, and clean. I mean, you don't see any trash right now. It's looking pretty good.
$30 would be the best bet.
But with all the new additions, there's something missing.
The grassroots is missing, and monopoly and big business and government is present.
To be fair, that's Miguel Lopez, the former organizer who lost his permit after the park was trashed last year. He says Euflora is missing the point.
The fanfare is misleading the people that everything is okay, when it's still federally illegal. You can't smoke in Denver Housing Authority if you're a patient with cancer.
What do you say to people who say that this is corporate now, that this doesn't have the same feel that it used to?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Everybody's dancing and having a good time just like last year. I think that's probably something that's leveled at the company. But the truth of the matter is that the city wants this event thrown a certain way, and you need money to do that.
How we doing?
And a lot of the crowd appears to be cool with the changes, as long as they're only minor.
As long as they don't start coming through and arresting people, then it'll be a good day.
Seems like a good motto for any good time. For Next, I'm Steve Steger.
Talk about the cash involved. Euflora says it estimates it's going to put down $750,000 on this year's 420 festival. They don't think they're going to make it back this year. So the history nerd in me was wondering what exactly Denver was doing on 420 a century ago. Certainly people were not getting baked en masse in a public park. At that time, we were a nation at war. April 20th, 1918. The front page headline of the Denver Star seems to apply today. Be a hermit to avoid trouble. But the African-American newspaper was warning about trouble for black men who were just trying to enter businesses like everyone else. Come to think of it, maybe it's not so outdated after all. America was at war. Not a one-off bombing without congressional approval. No, this was an everybody in war. And the Star told of a famous boxer who sacrificed a finger to stay in the service. 70 million pounds of potatoes in Colorado were about to go to waste, so Coloradans were ordered to eat them up during Potato Week. And beneath the banner of a 48-star flag, the newspaper's slogan, "Stop lynching and mob violence by law." It was 420 in Denver a century ago. This week, your good news takes on a different tone because we ask people to celebrate the headlines of their lives within the rules of a library. And one piece of feedback that stopped me in my tracks. Next. It is Friday when we celebrate the headlines that matter most in your home. Not the stuff that we deem news, but, you know, real life. That's important too. This week, our Ann Herbst stopped by the Corky Gonzalez Library in Denver with a quiet version of our question. What's your good news?
When you have good news, you want to scream it. But when you're here,
We have to be quiet, right?
you might want to tone it down a bit.
Because we're in a library. This is true.
Okay, we can still do this. Good news. What do you got?
Oh, man, let me see. I retired here not very long ago. I've actually went and got my fishing license. I've also purchased a new pole, right? Fishing pole.
I've applied for various services like housing, food, jobs. Now I have people helping me and things are looking up.
The people who work here are going to kick us out. No lie.
I don't have to whisper.
Yeah, we don't have to whisper.
Do we have to whisper?
No. I don't know how to dance, but I'm gonna go take a class tonight with my friends. You know, some people think because I'm Latina, I can, like, you know, dance and everything, but I can't at all. My mom just got her permanent residentship, so she was able to move to the United States with me. I'm happy about the coming elections in November because I'm a citizen and I can vote now.
The reactions might be a little calmer.
Well,
but the news is still just as good.
I just like to encourage people that things will get better, and I try to do the same for myself.
Shh, I know.
For next, shh. This is Ann Herbst.
Oh, what great perspective. The most Colorado thing we saw today was spotted by next viewer Cynthia Butterfield up near Carbondale. That would appear to be 6 pairs of skis and 1 pair of crutches, available for free. Yep, it's the end of the ski season, all right. We hope that everybody got through it in one piece, or at the very least, you know, you're on the mend and getting excited about next year. Up next here, a sign I saw that made me wonder if one neighborhood isn't attracting a trashy clientele. And your feedback about 2 names that you did not hear us say today. It's a sign that I spotted the other weekend when I was in Stapleton for brunch. It reads, "Future resident parking only." Oh, that's a nice amenity. But hold on a second, that new resident looks like trash. Really? Is this how they welcome people? I'm sorry, that just gave me a laugh. What a message to future or current residents. If you see a sign that makes you smile, email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag #HeyNext. Tom wrote in tonight. Notice that we did not mention the name of the Columbine killers, as is custom on this day or really any day on 9 News. This is the concept of no notoriety, which we discussed in length following the Aurora Theater shooting, denying fame to people who might seek it through violence. Tom writes, "It was you who explained it to me. At the time, I was pretty skeptical of the benefit, but today, I don't remember the name of the killer. Who would have guessed that we could still come up with something new that could help?" Thanks for writing in, Tom. See you next time.